meeting to order at 6:31 for the February 13th Park and Rec Board meeting. Go on to the roll call.
Foster Neal,
Present.
Jim Brown.
Here.
Here. Mary is not here. She may be here. Eva is not able to come. Margaret may show up. Scott Heron.
Here. Here.
Hello.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Well, at least we have enough people to keep moving on with business, so that is good. So we've got some January minutes in front of us that were sent out, January 9th. I would, if you need to take a review of it, I'd entertain a motion to approve those minutes as written.
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
I was absent, but I'll support
Okay. Okay.
if I can.
Yeah, you can second it. That leads us to if there's any discussion or modifications. I think it's like we read these things when we get them and then just assume that it's all good to go. Motions. Yeah. Does anybody have any comments or modifications? Okay. Shall we take a vote on that? I guess. All those in favor of approving the January 9th minutes, can say aye or raise their hand?
Aye.
Okay. Well, let's minutes pass unanimously. So right now, public comments not related to the agenda. The public is not currently with us. So we will move on. Should we jump to general business?
Megan is going to talk to you guys about the Clay Cliff Trail Improvement DNR Trust Fund grant.
Yeah, so I was gonna do a little presentation, but I know we're short on time, so I think I can just talk to you a little bit about it. I did, you might have in your packet a position paper to talk about it, but so this project was presented to you previously last year. I'm not sure if all of you were on, I think you were all on it last year, but it was at the February meeting last year. So the project is, the Clay Cliffs Natural Area. We want to create about a 3/4 mile trail, accessible trail through there, and it's the first stage of a project. So, let's see, it's part of, kind of aligns with the Parks and Rec master plan. There were a lot of elements from the master plan that went into the thought, and that was, one of the main ones was developing the trails at Clay Cliffs. Let's see, and to increase barrier-free accessibility system-wide throughout the park system. And then let's see here, so there, you should have also the original concept design from Fleece and Vandenbrink. And I can tell you, you can see the trail developments right at the beginning entrance near the community pool. There's a footbridge that'll be replaced there. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Clay Cliffs, but it's just a little basic wooden footbridge. We tried to figure out how old it was, no one really had a exact, we called Van Johnson. We're assuming it's at least 60 years old, but that will be replaced and to include something a little bit more accessible and sturdy. Let's see, so it'll create the trail, it'll be non-motorized waterfront trail along Mitchell Creek, so it'll help with fishing, hiking, and other recreational enjoyment. It'll have overlooks with accessible benches, interpretive educational signage, and then there will be an additional footbridge in to create a loop across the creek. So we applied for this trust fund grant in 2024 with this project. I can give you a little rundown of that. There were 122 applications for this funding, and they awarded 85 grants, 17 land acquisition grants for communities wanting to purchase land, and 68 recreation development projects like this. As far as we can figure, looking at the final scores, we were probably number 69. Yes?
You have written down here the grant requested amount of $400,000. How much is the state budget or 2025
Well, let me,
of.
we're getting a little ahead of it, so let me, I don't know as far as their budget for that. I don't know what they've budgeted for that. I know that they
In other
budgeted for this grant.
Words, how much grant money does the state have?
It was, oh gosh, I could maybe tell you how much they awarded last year, and it would be a similar amount. I wanna say it was roughly $20 million they awarded.
I believe this money is either foundation money or trust fund money from,
Right.
it could be the one from the oil and gas industry, but it's not annualized budgetary line item from my recollection.
Right, so it should, it should be, the similar amount should be available. But like I said, so, they awarded 68 grants. We were probably about 60. So we were very, very close. There were just a couple little things we think we can tweak in the application itself. And then maybe a little bit in the project, but I don't think we have to change much in the project. Some of the elements are out of our hands, like the size of our community. You get a certain amount of points for that, or the income levels of the community, and we can't change that. You get certain amount of points if you have a DNR grant or have had one in the last 10 years, which we've had a couple, and we can't change those. But looking at the application, and we reviewed it with our engineers at Fleece and Van den Brink, and we think with just a few minor updates, we can increase that score enough to be funded this year. So we'll work better at highlighting some of the sustainable elements of the project. The path will be constructed to minimize the grade and control erosion, and to minimize the impact on the natural landscape. So we'll be developing the identified trails, so it'll discourage some social trails. We're gonna expand some educational elements on this, in the signage, and add some bike racks. And then the city is planning to increase its match percentage from 28 to 30%, which will increase our score as well. And then something that's not a requirement for the application, but it is helpful for the grant and just the park in general, is some community engagement. And so if we could re-engage a citizen advocacy group for the park, that would be good, which I know that's something that you were involved with before, so that we can always have a discussion about that later, but not required for the grant, but something to discuss later. Let me think here. So with all these elements in mind, we just are hoping that you would recommend to the city commission that they renew its support of this project and adopt a new resolution to authorize the submission of an application for this year's grant cycle. And I know I kind of scooted through that really fast because I know we're on a time crunch, but if you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Can the state opt to award us less than we request?
Yeah.
So it's like, we can make the request and then we could get any percentage of that, and it's up to us to figure out how we're gonna
Right.
go forward.
It doesn't, I couldn't tell you how often that happens. It can
Yeah, okay.
happen.
It's just that it's not an all or nothing. It's not like, oh, we could have been successful if we
Right.
would have asked for 50,000 less. They could just give us 50,000 less, and then.
Right. It's not like the amount was what
Yeah.
made it, right? I think there were just a couple things in the application that, I wasn't here last year, and not to, diminish anything that was submitted last year, but just looking at it, I think we can highlight things a little bit better, even just the same plan. But I think in talking to Todd from Fleece and Van den Brink, he even thinks it's a good plan, and we think it would be really it would go along well with a lot of the things happening in the community, and having an accessible trail is just a really cool thing to add.
It's the least accessible park according to our master plan,
Yes.
because there's no accessible trails.
They're all grown over.
Because it's a natural area,
Yeah.
but it's a park, and I think that's part of the reason for doing this.
Right, and talking to Todd about it, just through the whole process of it, there's a lot of things they can do that will really minimize the impact on nature there. Like sometimes if they don't wanna take big equipment in there, so they might use like hand tools to bring things in, or whatever they have to do to to bring, some of like the bridges and stuff in there, but they want to minimize the impact on that trail because it is such a special nature area. There's, you may recall, there's the wood turtle is a creature of concern, or a species of concern that I've actually seen quite a few of them there, but they make their home there, so we don't wanna really change a whole lot about it, but it's a neat space in the city, and I think if you support it, I think we have a good chance at resubmitting it.
So we could either have more of a discussion or entertain a motion.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it.
I'm for it.
My wife
Okay.
took me there when she brought me up.
So would you like to make a motion to resubmit the
Yes.
trust fund grant? Okay. And then,
I'll second that motion.
okay.
Take your pick.
I think all four, seconds, traces, and.
I'll third it,
macros,
Sandy.
yeah.
Oh, that was,
I mean, is there any discussion other than we just hope that we're successful, you know?
I just think we have a better perspective now. You know, I think Megan has a better perspective on it and, you know, chance to sharpen it up, tighten it up, and this is gonna be a great project.
Yeah, and so our January minutes do say that we submitted a grant proposal for the pool. So I know that states and grant funders will sometimes say, you know, we can't like overly speak to that because there's no guarantee of that funding. But there's other things I think the city is committed to the pool regardless of that grant. And those things could be, you know, spoken to because, again, it's not, you know, dependent on whether or not we get that pool grant, which it looks like that might have just got submitted if that did
yeah, it
happen.
was, mid-January, so
Yeah.
we'll know about that probably late spring-ish, probably. But yeah, they're two really complementary projects, so I think they'll really make that area over there pretty unique and.
Was it the pool one that had parking lot stuff in it? Not this one, right? This one doesn't touch the parking lot? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, shall we take a quick vote on that? I think it sounds like we're all in support of it, but all those in favor of it, raise their hands. Okay, so we'll have that motion for you to be able to submit that. That's awesome.
And if you have any other, I know we went through it quickly, but please reach out if you have any other questions about it.
Yeah.
All right, Hemlock Park ribbon cutting. The ribbon cutting that I am aware of, I don't know if it is the overall park ribbon cutting, but I do know that it is the splash pad ribbon cutting. It is technically the last phase of it, but I'm not sure if they're planning something separate for an overall park ribbon cutting. But what I do know is the splash pad ribbon cutting will be May 24th from 11 to 1. It is the Saturday of Memorial Weekend. The Hanson family has requested that weekend because they have a number of family traveling in from out of state, between school and everything else too. It's the best date that fits them for being available. So we're working to accommodate them, and we're working with John Coles to coordinate, to make all the donors aware and try and get as many people and kids there so that on that day they can actually utilize it as well when we open it.
Will everything be operational on the
Plan that it will
24th?
be open and operational on that day. We can do the ribbon cutting and it can be. Yep.
You said that was May 24th, 11 to 1?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
A couple,
And that's
go ahead.
on site, right?
Onsite, yep. Couple other things that are not on the agenda that I just wanna bring to your guys' attention. The naming of the playground fundraising update that John Coles is able to give me is that they are at 30% or 6,000 up to 20K that he wants to raise for that. So he will keep us in the loop as to how that is progressing, but he's very optimistic with what he's seeing so far that 20,000 is gonna be very attainable. Term reminders, we've got Scott and Margaret, I believe, that are terming. So think of people that, it's in May, correct? Yep. So be thinking of people that you know in the community that may have an interest in this, put a bug in their ear and, you know, invite them to a meeting, see how it goes and see if they maybe would, be interested in taking a seat and joining us on this board. And then Foster has provided us with an awesome report here of the disc golf course and North End Park usage. I think we've got a few minutes, Foster, if you want to give us a quick run through.
Yeah, so I get this email annually. I actually get a monthly email too, but it's not as exciting, and I don't think everybody wants that every month. But it's created by an app called UDisc that is pretty popular within the disc golf community. I don't personally use it to record my rounds, so it does not capture all of the rounds that get played, but it's a nice metric to judge, you know, how successful, how much usage a course is getting. So I only included the stats from like the forward of the email from one of the two courses. There's North End East and North End West. West is the course that gets a little bit more play than the East course. So if you flip to page 3, it's got like the blue background and we have rounds and players. You can see that UDisc recorded 2,348 rounds on the West course alone. Flipping back to my notes, I think I found that combined, it's somewhere in there, it's like 4,299 rounds between the two courses for the entire year, which I think is pretty fantastic. The course, both courses ranked in the low hundreds across the state. The state has approximately 526 courses, so in the top fifth, basically. It could always be better, but that's pretty darn good. Disc Golf Scene, a different disc golf website and metric, ranks our course, I think, 39th in the state, so even better than in the top fifth. They just do their rankings a little bit differently. But, I mean, all in all, it just speaks to the quality of the course and the maintenance that Leonard largely does and that the city supports. Yeah, I think, you know, mostly the blue pages are the most interesting, like the 2,000 or the 4,000 plus rounds between the two courses. You can pretty much look at the numbers and assume that since it's for one course, it's about double. Except for the traffic and tourism page 4, it says, you know, 412 players came from 500 or from 50 kilometers or 30 miles away. That's probably the same for both courses. If somebody, like the 32 people from over 300 miles, like, they probably played both courses. And to be honest, probably at least half of those are actually Ferris students. Right? So it's like, it's not that they actually traveled here to play the course, it's that they're going to school here. But I think that the 412 is not all Ferris students. We absolutely get probably at least a couple hundred people from outside of the Big Rapids area that are driving here. Even if it's just from, you know, Cadillac or, you know, Grand Rapids or, you know, East or West, you know, 20, 30 minutes.
I can tell you that, well, my time in Ludington, I was working with some disc golfers there, and our courses over here are very well known by those groups as well.
Yeah, I'd say that's still, yeah, generally true. Like, you know, for up to like a 2-hour radius, North End is pretty well known as maybe not the #1 destination course, but well worth the trip. And that's largely because the course is well maintained. Leonard does an awesome job mowing, and the city does a fantastic job supporting him in that. We have really nice signage. It's a very accessible course that is got a good natural flow to it. Like, it's easy to navigate. There's 2 courses on the property. It's within a reasonable distance to amenities like food, gas, so on and so forth. There's water on site. There's bathrooms on site. You'd be surprised how many disc golf courses don't have those things. You drive an hour and you can't get a Gatorade after your round. You can't find a gas station. Like, you know, it's in the middle of nowhere, that kind of thing. So I think we have a pretty good reputation, and these stats speak to it. Does anybody have any questions?
Not necessarily questions, but it looks like spring is the busy time for these. It looks like May.
Yeah, it's like April 6th could have been a day that like Ferris had a like regional event and they kept score with UDisc.
Yeah.
So you can't like judge, like be too. I'd say that The monthly that I usually get, I think that we usually have like the busiest day had 20 to 30 rounds.
Okay.
So 42 isn't like a huge spike. We could have close to that throughout the summer. It varies, but absolutely, I mean, it gets more play once the snow is gone, all the way until when the snow flies. Play drops off, you know, by 2/3 or so. But people are still out there. Like I still run league throughout the winter, and we see other people golfing. So.
So there's some economic impact as well with people coming from out of the area.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I have no doubt that people will come from outside of the area, not like hordes, but
Right.
you know, they're going to go to the gas stations. They're going to go to like places like the Gypsy Nickel, the Sawmill, Zots, Schuberg's. I mean, even the Blue Cow. You know, some of them are even going to stay at like a hotel for overnight. You know, so yeah.
Is there such a thing as city league disc golf? Like city
City
league
rec does not run
softball?
Yeah. No.
Well, and even at that though, I will say the city does not run the softball leagues either, so if someone does it, they do it on their own accord, whether it's Foster or, Leonard. But the city recreation department itself does not run leagues.
Ah,
There's no leagues, yeah, they don't run soccer, they don't run baseball. Maybe,
will,
yeah.
I run a volleyball league.
Oh, is that, okay,
Isn't there a
I run an
volleyball
adult
league?
volleyball league.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. As for youth sports specifically, no. That's all been taken over by adult groups that run those leagues.
keeps it cost low.
will, to return to the 24th of May,
Yeah.
will Hemlock Field be entertaining softball?
This season? I believe so. Yeah, all construction at Hemlock Ball Field is done, so, and it's all taken care of, ready to go again. I believe they were using it for fall ball this last year. I think they were even using it towards the end of the season. It'll be available for use for the season.
Thank you for putting
Thanks,
this
Bob.
together, this is really
Good stuff.
interesting.
Yeah, like I mean, UDisc does most of the work. I just forwarded it, and a little bit of few stats, but yeah. Thanks.
Okay, that's all I have for you guys.
Anybody have anything for the good of the order? I just think we just have to keep thinking about our Four Seasons, and using the parks at Four Seasons like that, because I don't know how well our Home Depot Park is gonna, maybe it will have the city, facilities and accommodations so that it is usable throughout the entire winter, those complicated things, making sure that bathrooms are available and appropriate and making sure things are cleared and.
Oh, I have one other piece of information. Leonard and the city are working on putting a pavilion in for the disc golf course. It's in the works. I think it might happen by the end of the fall.
Over near the.
It'll be by the practice baskets. So the practice baskets are currently on one side of the Riverwalk where it's right before it crosses 4th Street Park and connects to the rails to trails. So the practice baskets are in the grassy area, like on your left as you pull into the park. The pavilion is planned tentatively to go into the wooded area on the other side of that trail. So they'll do a little bit of clearing, which it's like you never really want to have to cut down trees, but after assessing all the other possible places, I think that makes the most sense for the park and the aesthetic of the park. And I think that it's probably actually going to be like popular with people beyond disc golf. It's always funny when we'll pull into the park and there'll be like a family having like a picnic at like the disc golf tables. And we're kind of like, I guess that's cool. It's open to everybody, of course, but it's like, we're like, we feel possessive of them. Like, hey, those are our tables. But it's not like we ever are rude or anything. But so I think it'll probably be the same with the pavilion. People will probably really like it because it's right next to that trail that people use a lot. So I'm guessing a lot of people are going to stop there and have a seat or have a snack or whatever. It's nice that the things that we do for disc golf are often end up becoming multi-purpose, even though we don't intend them to be. Like, there's a bench at the raised T-pad on 13 West, which is at the junction of the Riverwalk and the rails trails on the northeast most corner of the park, basically. And that like platform with a bench, I know I've heard lots of people say that like my kids love to stop and sit there, like just walking on the trails. So that always makes us kind of happy.
Excellent.
Alright.
Call the meeting to a close. Adjourn. Okay, let's do that. Whatever time it is. 6:56. 4 minutes for them to get going into their thing.
Set up and how they need to set up.